However, Japan, Korea, and USA, they still do not have a purpose-built esports stadium. They are transforming an old gymnasium into an esports center. And leaving China is the only country is now having a purpose-built esports stadium. And this is a very important strategy of China at the moment. This is what the chairman Xi Jinping is talking about, the One Belt, One Road strategy. I'm sure you all understand the president, the chairman Xi was here in Europe 3 weeks ago. Particularly, he went to Italy to sign a contract with the Italian for the One Belt, One Road. And he buy a lot of planes here in Europe, and also he buy a lot of agricultural products from Europe. And because of that, this is the One Belt, One Road system. When Beijing, they gave a green light that they have to turn a city into an esports city, a lot of cities, they are competing each other among the China region. One of them is Chengdu, the other one is Sichuan, and the third one is Chongqing. While Chongqing is one of the 4 direct neighbor cities to Beijing, and therefore there would be a great chance to choose a site from this Chongqing area along the Yangtze River, which is a very important river by the center of the map of China. And every year there will be more than 6 million travelers, visitors along this river. So what we do, what are the limitations when I appointed to be architect? So I have to share with you, if you are being appointed as the chief architect, so the work is not only doing architectural design, you have to work with the decision makers, the top leaders on all the decisions. And you have to think about the programs of the entire project. So what are, at the moment, our problem is limitation, which is time and money. I don't see the Chinese government have any problems on money because at the moment they're very, very rich. And what we have to confront at the moment is the time. We have to build such a huge project, 1.8 million square feet within 10 months to compete and also let the CMEG, what they call the Chinese Mobile Electronic Games, to be happening by the end of 2017. So we have to do a number of fast-paced organizational setup at the moment. This is very interesting. As you can see from the photograph, when I was directly appointed as the chief architect, I have to work with the local leaders to choose from the site. And finally, ignoring the competition with Chengdu, Sichuan, finally, Chongqing was chosen by Beijing to be branded as the esports city. And we have a problem at that time because I was asked by the local high provincial officials that I have to choose between 2 sites. The first site is in the center of the city center, which we have surrounded by a lot of tall buildings. Many of you, I'm sure, you have been to Chongqing. Chongqing is a mini Hong Kong. They enjoy high rise. All the buildings are more than 40 and 50 stories tall. And at the same time, they were asked me to choose another site is against, along the Yangtze River. And my final decision, after I saw the site, I think it has to go to the river. Because if you're the center, the site is being chosen within the city, I don't see any impact there, especially if it's surrounded by a lot of tall buildings. And I see the potential of the Yangtze River, and I see the Yangtze River because we have 6 million people visiting the river and pass by the river. And I also proposed to the Beijing government, I was a bit innocent at that time, that why don't we build a super bridge, a super ferry pier, linking directly to the river, so that to collect at least 10–20% of this 6 million, that will be 600,000 people every year to our esports city. But however, at the end of the day, it was prohibited. That time I was innocent because the Beijing, anything you do along the Yellow River and also the Yangtze River has to be approved by the central government in Beijing. So therefore, this super bridge and the ferry pier has been abandoned. And the government officials, they asked me to concentrate on the stadiums. It's interesting, it's just like a live show, because of that project, we are filmed almost every day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week by the local television. And whatever I did in the morning, I will see myself on the TV in the late news. So I'm filming, and also they're branding the entire exercise, and they're doing the making of the whole project. And the next part is, after I select the site, is to collect and to seek for a strong collaborator. And if you Google this organizer, apart from Japan and Korea, they are one of the biggest at the moment in Asia in electronic games. They're producing almost 80% of the market for the electronic games, especially the mobile games. And they're from Beijing, and this time they are collected and they are requested by the Chongqing government to take part as the collaborator. And the next step, as I mentioned, as the chief architect, I have to develop a program with them. What are we going to do? What kind of function to be included in such a new topic of architecture, esports stadium? And therefore, we have to have esports integrated stadium, and then we need to have an expo, and then we have the piazza, we have the virtual reality tube, and also we have a huge anchors training center. And it has been proved, if you are popular enough as the anchor or commentator for esports electronic games, your salary every year will be much higher than Richard Crest or even Amara Walker of CNN. And so therefore, it's very important for them to have this kind of anchors training. And very important, most gamers, they love female commentators and female anchors. So therefore, they have a lot of training on that. And also we have the hairdressing training, catwalk training, Olympic Plaza, the research and development studio, cafeteria, restaurant, so on and so forth. This is the basic program. We have designed the entire stadium at that time. And we have to understand that Chongqing, unlike Hong Kong is a typhoon zone. All our buildings, especially our tall buildings, we have to be strong enough to resist the lateral loading of typhoon up to typhoon signal number 10. But in Chongqing, we don't have any typhoon. In Chongqing, we have earthquake, a very serious earthquake. You know the Sichuan area, they always have earthquake problem. And therefore, we have to work with the structural engineer for the slim-looking structural elements and to make the entire appearance of the stadium look slim, but at the same time, they are strong enough. Why? Because, as you remember, I have chosen a sloping site along the Yangtze River, and this soil is very soft, and we have to dig down, and we have to do the piling at least 40 meters below to touch the hard rock, because it's along the river. So we have to build a very strong building. Next. At that time, I had to think about how to brand the building. At the same time, through branding the building, how to brand Chongqing as an esports city. I remember I learned, and when I worked with Frank Gehry, he mentioned to me, before he did the Bilbao Guggenheim Museum, no one knows what is Bilbao in Spain. But after he did this museum, he has clearly defined it very well. That is an architecture in city and making major contrast to the city. And that's the only way to make and to brand such a building in such an unknown city. And at the end of the day, it proves Frank Gehry has been very successful. And he gave me a lot of lecture, and I understand a lot more. Same case for Zaha Hadid, late Dame Zaha Hadid. I miss her a lot. We have collaboration, and also I think about, we have collaboration with Zaha Hadid in Hong Kong, and she also knows very well how to brand a building, and that made her very, very popular in Asia, especially in Middle East, in Abu Dhabi, and also in Dubai. It told me a lesson. When you brand a building, there's no way you can stop, and you have to go all the way through. And her validity and also her impact through architecture is so far so important to me. And you may find some shadows of my design, which has some influence from late Dame Zaha Hadid, and I miss her so much. That is the organization chart. It's fairly interesting. China is a communist city. Everything is top down, especially when the Beijing government from the top, they say yes, and then give you a green light. No one, I guarantee you, no one will stop you. And like the speakers of yesterday, like the case of doubling, and even in Canada, you have to go through a lot of consultation of the district council, the people, and then you get the opinion of people. But in China, you don't have to do that. When the top leaders give you the green light, no one could stop you. And therefore, this is a top-down organization chart. As you can see, this is a rather international organization. We have people from Beijing, people from Hong Kong, that's us, people from Chongqing, Shanghai, and even Hangzhou. And interestingly enough, when it is really in execution, that top-down organization has turned to horizontal management system because the time is too tight. So I can often have a chance to talk to top leaders, and also I have the chance to talk to the high government officials whenever I get a problem. And then they will listen to me and they will get rid of the problem, like the timing, like the money, and also like the transportation of steels. Next. As I mentioned, we have to do everything at the same time because we only have 10 months to do. I had to go to my drawing board for the design at the same time, and the construction, they have started the excavation, they have started the site conformation, they have started the piling to reach the 30 meters below ground. And at the same time, I have to explain, I have to go to the site, as you can see from the photograph, from time to time to check. And luckily, the Beijing government, they have appointed the best contractor for me. I have worked for two good contractors. One is that one, it's called China Construction. It's a national construction company. And the second one is the French, it's called Dragache, because I like Dragache because they're very good. I collaborated with Sir Norman Foster with Dragache to build a big cruise terminal building in Hong Kong. And apart from that, we also have to go to the sites to show everyone what is the progress, because the leaders will come to the site from time to time, and at the same time, they are thinking about the strategy, the marketing strategy, the branding exercise, and also the filming. We have to go to the CCTV almost every night to film it and also say something about the progress. And at the same time, I have to explain to the investors how they could invest on this, because it's not 100% funded by the government. It's 90% unfunded by the government. They still attracting investors, R&D people, and also e-sport collaborators to join the incubation block so as to make it really work. So I have to do all these things at the same time. So lucky us, we shocked the e-sports category and the industry that United States of America, Japan and Korea, at the same time, they still do not have a purpose-built building. And our purpose-built building, East Sports Stadium, has the groundbreaking and the superstructure has come into place. At the same time, as I mentioned, we have to say a lot of things with the collaborators, and also we have to have a lot of PR exercise to jack up the economic blooming and then to sign contract with a lot of collaborators. When I think about the architectural merit, if I have such a big site facing along such an important Yangtze River, what am I going to do architecturally speaking? Even today, we're not going to say too much. I'm not going to say too much about architectural design. Today is not an architectural forum. But I had to say something. I asked myself, learn from Frank Gehry and also learn from Zaha Hadid. I have to do something to the stadium, or otherwise it would be just end up like a rice bowl, because it's a circular stadium arena. And I had to do something design on the roof, I had to do something spectacular on the floor. As you can see from this river, what I try to do is what I call the flying keyboard in the air. Because when you are playing esports games, apart from the mouse, most of the gamers, they're using the keyboards. So I would like to have two keyboards flying the roof, and just like a crouching tiger, a structural steel crouching tiger, reaching out her hands to the Yangtze rivers to welcome you. And that's the basic concept. Next. I don't think I have time to explain that. This is a yin and yang, the Chinese yin and yang, which imply East Sports, we have two major elements to play fair, and also a red and blue gamers against each other. So this is what we call an equilibrium point, just like the yin and yang. They enjoy the two flying keyboards in the air. They enjoy the same quantity and volume, but they are reaching out in a different forms and shapes. But at the end of the day, the equilibrium point is right there in the center. The circular form actually is the stadium and the arena. As you can see, by January, I have committed to do this job, to go to my drawing board to design everything. And we have the Chinese New Year by February 2017, and we cannot have any holidays within that 10 months. And then we have more than 1,500 workers on the site, 24 hours a day, 3 shifts a day, 7 days a week, and 365 days a year, non-stop. And in February, you see we have built our road, and then we have the site formation, and more importantly, we have our piling, digging down onto 30 meters deep. And as you can see from the section, in China and also in Asia, we love to build underground car parks, and all those amenities, they don't want to see them above ground. We want to see them all underground, especially Japan. Yesterday, I heard about Glenn, he was talking about the streetscape of Canada, and also Richard, he was talking about Dublin. But in Japan, they will keep everything in Asia, we keep everything old or heritage, treasurable above ground, but we will build something contemporary new underground. So you'll find a number of underground shopping streets in Asia. So this is the case, we dig down everything, the whole construction, and this is Yangtze River. By March, you can see the arena, the circular form is erected. And the China construction, appointed by Beijing, they are so powerful enough, they stop all the construction sites around the region of Sichuan, Chengdu, and also Chongqing by collecting all the structural steel from them, either from the new road we built and also from the river to reach the sites. And the record breaking is we have consumed 40,000 tons of steel within 10 months to build this structure. We will not use reinforced concrete because reinforced concrete is slow and it takes time. And the accuracy is not that good, and we cannot precast the concrete. But structural steel, we can precast the structural steel and then assemble it on site. And May 2017, apart from the arena, we construct the first wing. I imagine, last slides, the building of this venue, I think, is about the size of that small corner. So this is a huge building along the river. By July, we have the roof. I'm so glad July is so happy. I was totally delighted when I went to the site to see the whole entire roof has been on stage and also has been in position accurately. What we were afraid is when the scaffolding is away, we are afraid of the settlement of the roof. And finally, it doesn't have any settlement. It was stayed. It stays very stable there. And then this is October, the cladding, and this is December. And by the end of December, 24th of December 2017, they have the first China mobile electronic game, CMEG, there. Because in China, there's no Christmas. Next. And ladies and gentlemen, and this is the result, and I hope you like it. Merci beaucoup. This is the Yangtze River, and this is our phase 2, the incubation block and the 5-star hotel, which is now under planning and construction. And we have to build a huge steel deck there because there's traffic free. All the government top officials in China and Beijing, they don't like any traffic jams and they don't like any transport will obstruct the way they inspect the building. So everything will be go underground. So this is a huge steel deck below, and the traffic go underground here. Of course, after the successful of the East Sports Stadium, they will hold the tennis competition, the tennis match, and they will have the boxing, and then they have the music festival and everything. And I'm sure if you are a gamer, you know this is what the Japanese, they call it cosplay. And these are all very, very popular comic characters that happen in the East Sports game. And before that, there was a very lovely young lady. They dressed up like the comic characters. Indeed, it's very attractive. And therefore, we designed a huge grand staircase for them to show off themselves. Just like what happened in Cannes, during the Cannes Film Festival. I was there in Cannes last year, that a lot of people would like to show off before the award ceremony. Next. Of course, it makes my name there in Asia, on the popularity and also the branding. More importantly, we have a number of media exposure all around the world, include Great Britain, USA, Australia, Italy, France, and also a lot of Middle East countries. And perhaps that's the reason why the event here was attracted by this media exposure and get me here today. For sure, in the coming 2022, the Asian Games in Hangzhou, it's been confirmed that esports is definitely a sport, and they will make it as a formal sport. And that's from BBC. I'm sure you know that, of course you know that. 2024, the Olympic Games will be formally held in Paris. And through the BBC, after they studying our stadium, they're talking about there will be a great chance. They are in talks, they're talking about to include maybe the esports into the Olympic Games by Paris 2024. I hope that will be happened. And that is the successful games and everything happened in the first purpose-built esports stadium. These are the last few slides. I'm not going to repeat that because the organizer asked me to explore something by the end of the slide. Is that project be transferable to other communities or even other countries? I think I'll leave that to the panel to debate because as I mentioned, Hong Kong is still running the common law and also the British system. We do not have a chance to build something like that within 10 months in Hong Kong. All our projects in Hong Kong, even we have a lot of superstars in Hong Kong. We have Person de Morong, we have Sahar, we have Frank Gehry, we have KPF, we have SOM, you name it. I hope one day Sean Noel will do something in Hong Kong, but we can't do it in Hong Kong. But only the China, mainland China, with their special, I should say, communist thinking, with special character of capitalistic communism. They can do it right away with a special order from the top. So I'm not going to explore that, I'll leave it to the panel. In the last few slides, if I have to answer, is that transferable to other cities? Or I will share with you the last 5 slides. This is the esports stadium, 3 million square feet I'm doing. Next. This is Qianhai in Shenzhen. I have to let you know, maybe you read from the media, they're building another Hong Kong in 20 years' time. I should say, if anything happens to Hong Kong, if Hong Kong falls, there will be another Hong Kong in Shenzhen. Don't worry about Hong Kong. So that is what we did, is 300,000 square feet incubation center. Okay. Again, Chongqing. Yesterday, I think Glenn and also Richard mentioned about the big data. I think it's Glenn, he's talking about in Canada. Big data collection is very important. I can assure you that China, right now, mainland China, is the more skillful and the biggest data collector throughout the world. They are more skillful than the United States of America. They are more skillful than Russia. So all the data we have is being collected. So this is what we call the Big Data Academy that we did in Chongqing, which is 800,000 square feet. And what we are doing right now in Qianhai is accelerator block. They are going to build another Silicon Valley. Whatever successful in the West, whatever successful in the West, China will do it and do it in 100 times bigger. And that is our story. The last line is our accelerator block. When you come to Shenzhen, you will see that by early 2020. And thank you so much. Merci beaucoup.
Merci, Marie. Merci. Alors, le temps passe, donc je sais qu'il y a un timing à respecter. Je vais laisser la parole à Justina, qui est donc enseignante, professeure de design, à la fois à Paris et à Londres. Deux petites questions, peut-être pour rebondir. D'une part, quand tu enseignes le design, comment tu dis